Hi there, I'm Rose, and at 29 years old, I find myself freshly divorced from my husband, John. Our love story began back in college, where we shared classes and quickly fell for each other's charms. Despite our strong bond, there was always a persistent thorn in our side: John's mother, Charlotte. She seemed to harbor an inexplicable animosity toward me, constantly meddling in our relationship. Despite voicing my concerns to John, he struggled to confront his mother, torn between loyalty to her and his love for me. Eventually, I resigned myself to endure Charlotte's unwarranted criticisms, believing that John was inadvertently feeding her ammunition. Our relationship weathered many storms, with frequent arguments over his mother's influence. However, John eventually saw reason and stopped divulging details about our lives to her. After 3 years of dating, we tied the knot, much to Charlotte's chagrin. Her attempts to sabotage our marriage proved futile, and we distanced ourselves from her toxic presence for a while. During this period, both John and I found success in our careers, although I made some adjustments to maintain balance. We split our expenses unevenly, with me covering the lion's share. Yet, despite our marital happiness, I felt a void within me, a need to pursue something of my own. Drawing upon my knack for design, I delved into graphic design as a side venture. To keep it under wraps, I embarked on courses and invested in equipment without John's knowledge. My best friend Jess was the only one who knew about my new endeavor, offering encouragement and practical advice. As my skills flourished, Jess introduced me to acquaintances who were eager to engage my services, despite my novice status. They admired my work and entrusted me with projects, gradually expanding my client base. This newfound source of income alleviated financial pressures and allowed John and me to enjoy a more comfortable lifestyle. With each paycheck, I squirreled away savings, dreaming of treating John to something special, a token of gratitude for standing by me through thick and thin. However, I hadn't broached the topic with him yet, and every time I considered it, it seemed like he was avoiding any serious conversation. It became evident to me that something was amiss, but John remained tight-lipped about it. The first inkling of trouble came when John confessed to me that he had exhausted his entire paycheck on investments, just a week after receiving it. We had a heated disagreement about it, but managed to patch things up for the time being. To make ends meet, I put in extra hours at work, which helped alleviate some of the strain. The following month, John repeated the same pattern, leaving me feeling exasperated. I couldn't fathom how he could squander his earnings so recklessly. In my frustration, I lashed out with hurtful words, though I later regretted my outburst. However, when the same scenario repeated itself for the third consecutive month, I reached my breaking point. I had become more cautious with my finances, working tirelessly not just at my day job, but also with my burgeoning graphic design side business, which was increasingly becoming our primary source of income. When John once again found himself strapped for cash, I was at my breaking point. How could you let this happen again? Have you learned nothing? I confronted him, my voice laced with frustration. Despite John's attempts to justify his actions, I refused to bear the burden of his financial irresponsibility any longer. It was a tough decision, but I made it clear that I would not be bailing him out this time. John reacted with indignation and defensiveness, but I stood firm. You can gamble away your entire paycheck, but don't expect me to cover for you, I asserted, my resolve unwavering. I won't enable this behavior any longer. Our argument escalated, with accusations flying back and forth. In the end, John stormed off, leaving me to grapple with the turmoil of our crumbling relationship. In the aftermath of our confrontation, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to John's behavior than met the eye. Suspicion began to creep in, and I couldn't help but wonder if his overbearing mother, Charlotte, was somehow involved. Determined to get to the bottom of things, I decided to do a bit of sleuthing while John was out. It didn't take long for me to uncover the truth. John had been deceiving me. With access to his bank account, which he had unwittingly left logged in on my laptop, I discovered that he had more than enough funds squirreled away, contrary to his claims. As I scrutinized John's transactions, I couldn't find anything unusual apart from the regular debits. Perplexed, I wondered why he had been hiding his finances from me and weaving lies. Seeking clarity, I delved into his messages, and the first person I noticed him texting was his mother. Their conversation revolved around our recent altercation, with John painting me as the antagonist, claiming I had berated him for withholding money. Charlotte seemed to revel in this discord, affirming her suspicions about me. As I scrolled further, I unearthed a disturbing revelation. Charlotte had been relentlessly disparaging me to John, labeling me as materialistic and insinuating that I was with him solely for financial gain. Ironically, I was the primary breadwinner in our household. Their exchanges showed how Charlotte's toxic influence had fueled John's grievances against me, magnifying minor annoyances and nurturing his resentment. The final blow came when I discovered their scheme to cut me off financially. Initially hesitant, John succumbed to Charlotte's manipulations, gradually acquiescing to her demands. He fed her ammunition by disclosing incidents where I expressed frustration, further stoking her animosity toward me. It was a devastating betrayal, leaving me reeling with hurt and confusion. Unsure of my next steps, I sought solace in my best friend Jess. Nestled in her comforting presence, I shared the distressing truth I had uncovered, seeking her guidance during this tumultuous time. Jess, ever the steadfast confidant, listened intently, offering her unwavering support as I grappled with the betrayal inflicted by those closest to me. I wrestled with the weight of the situation, unsure of the best course of action. The solution seemed glaringly obvious: cut off John's support, let him hit rock bottom, and then file for divorce. But Jess questioned the morality of such a plan, calling it cruel. Her concern nudged me to reconsider my approach, and she suggested that I sleep on it and revisit the issue the next day. Exhausted both physically and emotionally, I welcomed the respite that sleep promised. The following morning, with the luxury of a weekend ahead, Jess and I sought solace in the familiarity of a favorite movie, eventually drifting off to sleep in each other's company. The tranquility of the day brought a sense of peace, a temporary reprieve from the turmoil brewing within me. We indulged in simple pleasures, immersing ourselves in movies, culinary delights, and each other's company. Despite the nagging thoughts of the previous day's revelations, I made a conscious effort to set them aside, prioritizing the much-needed break. However, our reprieve was short-lived when Charlotte's call shattered the tranquility. Reluctantly, I answered, only to be greeted by accusations and hostility. Charlotte's unwarranted claims only served to exacerbate the tension, but Jess encouraged me to maintain composure in the midst of Charlotte's tirade. Then, an unexpected proposal emerged, a 50-50 split of everything between John and me. It was a proposition tinged with skepticism, a test of my commitment to the marriage. Despite the audacity of her demand, I agreed, willing to entertain any possibility of salvaging what remained of our relationship. With tentative acceptance, plans were set in motion, culminating in a meeting scheduled for Tuesday to formalize the arrangement. Though uncertainty lingered, I resolved to confront the challenge head-on, armed with newfound determination to navigate the tumultuous waters ahead. I was stunned by the turn my marriage had taken, torn between disbelief and seething anger. How dare Charlotte brand me a gold digger? And how could John stand by and allow such an accusation? I had stood by him through thick and thin, supporting his endeavors even when they led to losses. I had covered for him when he lied and shouldered the burden of our shared responsibilities, all while concealing my own side hustle, waiting for the right moment to reveal it to him. When I shared the details with Jess, her smile hinted at the brilliance of Charlotte's scheme. Splitting everything evenly would leave John with little to fall back on, given his lack of awareness about my additional income. I had hoped to surprise him with a lavish gift once my side venture gained traction, but now I was grateful to have it as a safety net. Tuesday arrived swiftly, and Jess accompanied me for support. When we arrived home, we found Charlotte, John, and a lawyer already there, finalizing the contract. Ignoring John's silent plea for privacy, I approached Charlotte, demanding to review the terms. As expected, the agreement mandated an equal division of assets, with a clause prohibiting financial assistance between us. Reluctantly, I signed, knowing it would leave John scrambling financially. Predictably, problems ensued. Initially, we exchanged only terse words, our rift too deep to bridge, yet living under the same roof necessitated some communication. John attempted to breach the divide, but I kept my distance, growing increasingly resentful of his complacency. Eventually, worn down by his persistent attempts to reach out, I relented. "Will you please just talk to me? We can't keep going on like this," John pleaded, admitting that he missed our connection. But his words seemed hollow in light of his willingness to sever our financial unity. "What do you want me to say, John?" I retorted, my frustration unmistakable. "Is that why you agreed to cut our finances completely?" His silence was deafening, exposing the deep rift between us as we stood on the edge of our shattered marriage. I grappled with the weight of our choices, unsure if reconciliation was even possible. "I just needed to know where your loyalty lies, Rose," he continued. "Despite all the issues your mother has caused, you still choose to side with her. Is this really what's best for us?" "Please, John, don't speak ill of my mother like that. And what wealth are you so concerned about?" "I don't understand," I said, trying to diffuse the tension. "I'm simply trying to make things right between us. Can we not lash out at each other?" "There will be no reconciliation until that contract is null and void," I stated firmly. "It's only been 2 weeks since we signed it, and I've seen no evidence to suggest you're not here for the money. If you're struggling financially, just let me know. I'm willing to help." "Wouldn't that be a breach of the contract?" "Why would I risk violating it?" he asked, exasperated. "Why are you making this so difficult? Can't we just be civil?" I could see John wrestling with the conflicting influences, his mother's and his own. The John the first married wouldn't have succumbed to such manipulation. That month, I diligently paid off our major debts, leaving John in a bind. With my share settled, I had more disposable income, and Jess and I indulged in lavish outings while John always had an excuse for his financial constraints. My graphic design side business thrived, leading me to consider quitting my day job. Meanwhile, John struggled, his portion of the pantry often bare. While part of me empathized, I reminded myself that he had brought this upon himself. Charlotte's unexpected visit left me uneasy. She accused me of stealing from John and even threatened to involve the police. Confused and defensive, I demanded an explanation. "You're accusing me of seeking revenge on John because I don't like the contract he made us sign? Please, your son has been struggling all month, but it's not because I've stolen his money to fund my outings. He has no money to steal, and you know it. And let's not forget who coerced us into signing that contract in the first place. You forced it upon us, and now your son is paying the price. Liar. I'm calling the police right now." "Go ahead. I haven't taken a single cent from your son." "Then how do you have so much money? Your job doesn't pay that much more than John's, and he's told me you've cut back your hours." "I have another business on the side, a graphic design venture that I plan to surprise John with. But thanks to your meddling, that plan went down the drain. I was even going to use the money to buy you a car." "How much do you make from it?" she asked, her tone suspicious. "More than you think. You see, I didn't lie. I was trying to do something good, and then you ruined it. If you care so much about your son, maybe you should be the one supporting him." With that, I handed the divorce papers to John. I filed for divorce right after we signed the contract, holding on to them until the right moment. The shock on John's face was palpable. I felt no sympathy. Charlotte's satisfaction should have been evident, considering it was what she had been pushing for. Instead, she looked furious now that she understood the consequences for John. I informed them that I would be moving out in 3 weeks, agreeing only to continue splitting the remaining loan payments. John tried to plead with me, but I remained resolute, reminding him that this was the consequence of his actions. In the following months, I found liberation from the toxic relationship. Charlotte contested the divorce, but with our assets legally separated, there was little for John to gain. In fact, he ended up losing more. Unable to keep up with the mortgage, we sold the house, and he moved back in with his mother. Meanwhile, my business flourished and I gained lucrative opportunities with big brands. It was a blissful and rewarding period for me. I'm grateful I had something to fall back on, sparing me from the fate John endured. Perhaps this will serve as a lesson for him in the future, but that's no longer my concern.